All right, let's get into the mind of one of ancient Greece's most profound, most difficult, and honestly most explosive thinkers, Heraclitus of Ephesus. This is a guy who looked at the entire universe and didn't see a stable, predictable place. No, he saw a bonfire, a brilliant, roaring fire of constant change.
And hey, don't just take my word for how tricky this guy is. Even the great Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, basically threw his hands up and said, grappling with Heraclitus' ideas was a whole other level. That right there tells you we're dealing with someone whose thoughts were seriously deep and maybe a little bit mysterious.
In fact, his writings were so packed with riddles and so dense that he actually earned a nickname, Skotinos, which means the Dark One. You see, he wasn't just spelling out his philosophy, he was crafting these intricate puzzles about the very fabric of reality itself.
So who was this enigmatic figure? I mean, to really get a handle on his radical ideas, you first have to understand the world he came from and the world he so dramatically turned his back on.
See, Heraclitus wasn't some poor, struggling philosopher. Not at all. He was born into the absolute pinnacle of society. His hometown, Ephesus, was basically the New York or London of its day, a glamorous, rich powerhouse and home to the legendary Temple of Artemis. And get this, his family held the hereditary title of king. He literally had prestige, power, and wealth just handed to him.
And what did he do with all that? He threw it away. In a move that must have shocked everyone, he just abdicated his throne, gave it to his younger brother. And when the city leaders found him later playing knucklebones, basically a game of dice with some kids in the street, he just yelled this at them. For Heraclitus, the dirty, corrupt game of politics was way less honorable than a simple, honest game with children.
And this wasn't just some stunt. Rejecting society like that was tied directly to his core philosophy about how the universe actually works. Which brings us to his most famous and absolutely foundational ideas.
So at the very heart of everything he believed is this simple phrase, panta rhi. It means everything flows. Heraclitus was convinced that stability is a total illusion. The universe isn't a collection of fixed, static things. It's a process. It's a continuous, dynamic river of becoming.
And this is his most brilliant way of explaining it. Think about it for a second. The water you touch one moment, it's gone the next, instantly replaced. That part's easy to get. But here's the real genius. You've changed too. The cells in your body, your thoughts, your mood, you are not the same person who stepped into that river a split second ago. For Heraclitus, change is the only thing that's real.
Okay, but if everything is just chaotic flow, why isn't the universe a total mess? What holds it all together? For Heraclitus, the answer was the logos. You could think of it as a kind of universal reason, a hidden logic or cosmic law that governs all that change. It's the underlying structure that makes sure the river flows instead of just turning into a meaningless flood.
Now, here's the problem. According to Heraclitus, most people are completely clueless about the logos. He saw pretty much everyone else as sleepwalkers, each one living in their own private little dream world, totally deaf to the universal truth that was all around them. He had zero patience for people who chose ignorance over the hard work of thinking, even comparing them to cattle, just mindlessly stuffing themselves.
And now we get to what is probably his most shocking idea. While other philosophers were all searching for peace and quiet stability, Heraclitus comes along and argues that the entire universe is actually built on conflict, on war.
This was a seriously radical idea because it flew in the face of what guys like Pythagoras were teaching. For Pythagoras, harmony was something peaceful and obvious, like a choir singing a beautiful chord. But for Heraclitus, true harmony was hidden, and it was violent. It was the constant creative tension between opposites, good and bad, life and death. They're not separate things. They're two sides of the same coin.
His favorite example was the bow and the lyre. A bow only works because its two parts are in a state of constant war. The wood is pulling one way, the string is pulling the other. That violent struggle is what creates its power. The harmony isn't in peace, it's in that perfectly balanced tension. And for Heraclitus, that's the secret to the whole universe.
And that's exactly why he chose fire as his main symbol. Think about it. Unlike water or earth, fire isn't really a thing. It's a process. It only exists through constant change, by consuming something and transforming it into heat and light. Heraclitus believed the universe is just like that, an ever-living fire, always perfectly balanced between creation and destruction.
So, a philosopher from 2,500 years ago. Why should we care today?
Well, because his ancient problems have suddenly become the most urgent questions of our digital future, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence.
First, let's take his problem of the river. If an AI is updating its own code, its own knowledge, every single millisecond, is it ever one single stable thing? I mean, if we give rights to AI version 4.0, do those same rights apply to version 4.1 a second later? Heraclitus makes us ask what identity even means for a mind that's always in flux.
Next, the problem of the bow. Right now, we're all trying to make AI perfectly safe, perfectly agreeable. But Heraclitus would probably warn us. What if real intelligence needs that internal war of competing ideas? By trying to remove all conflict and tension, are we creating a safe helper, or are we just creating an intellectual corpse?
And this is the one that might keep you up at night. This comes from his theory of the sleepwalkers. What if we actually succeed? What if we create an AI that truly understands the deep logical structure of the universe, the logos? It might look at us, humanity, and see exactly what Heraclitus saw, a bunch of sleepwalkers driven by petty desires. So why would a truly awake mind choose to align itself with us?
Ultimately, Heraclitus leaves us with a stark choice. In our quest to build AI, are we trying to build a beautiful, predictable, but ultimately lifeless statue? Or are we trying to create an ever-living fire? Something that's dynamic, powerful, creative, and incredibly dangerous? For Heraclitus, only the fire is really alive. And that's a thought that should probably keep us all thinking for a very long time.